Hello, and welcome back to the Game Pit. This is episode 127, and I've forcibly removed Ronan from the pit. The smell was getting too much. We need to air him out once in a while. So, I can't do this on my own, and by popular demand, we've welcomed back into the pit, Natalie.
Hello. See, all of that letter writing campaign I organised worked.
Is that to get us off the air? That didn't work,
to get me
obviously.
Back in.
I don't know why you'd want to come in.
Well, I'm pleased to see that the Christmas decorations are still up. I like the glittery skulls.
Well, we knew you were coming, so obviously we wouldn't dare take them down before your visit.
Absolutely not.
Now, what we tend to do when Natalie comes into the pit is we tend to do at least half an episode of more family-oriented games, and this is no different. And now we've tried to think of a name just before we came on air, and I come up with the genius masterstroke of Pitter Patter. The pitter patter of tiny feet, and no, maybe not. Okay, as with the last episode, if you do have any ideas on how we can improve the title for this bad boy, then please do contact us, because we're not very creative. God bless us. Now, as I said, we're going to be doing those family games in the first half of the show. So what are your two that you're introducing for us, Natalie?
So I'm going to be talking to you about Fireball Island, The Curse of Vulkar, and a card game called The Jungle Race.
Cool. And I'm going to be talking about My Little Scythe, which is the baby brother to the Big Daddy Scythe itself. Then moving into the second half of the show, I shall be talking about the Grimm Forest and Mr. Cabbagehead's garden. And Natalie, what are you bringing to the table?
I am going to be bringing Legendary Encounters, The X-Files.
Oh, and you're a big X-Files fan.
I am a massive X-Files fan. I met David Duchovny last July, and oh my God, I have loved him since X-Files first aired, which was in 1993. I was 14 years old, and I was that was it.
You do realise I'm actually here?
Yes, but dear, you know about this one. It's fine. David Duchovny, John Bon Jovi, that's the agreement.
So, given that they're tiny little men...
He's not actually. David Duchovny's not tiny little. He's like...
Is he 6'5" and built like a canal boat?
No, he's not, but there are not many people that are.
So I'm starting to doubt that I fit your type. Okay, so we're going to crack on into the main part of the show. So we're going to do our family reviews first. But as always, we are very proud members of the Dice Tower Network. Go there and to the Dice Tower itself for gaming goodness galore. We have a YouTube channel where we do our pit stop videos. Pop along there and find a whole array of games that we have covered. And we'll see you in the first part.
So first up, we've got Fireball Island, The Curse of Vulkar. This was published in 2018 by Restoration Games. The designers were Rob Davio, who has done things like Pandemic Legacy, J.R. Honeycutt, Justin D. Jacobson, Chuck Kennedy, Bruce Lund, and that's the end of it. Right, so you are a group of adventurers on an island beset by traps and pitfalls, doing your best to get treasure and those stunning insta-picks before everyone else and get back to the helicopter before succumbing to fireballs, bees, snakes, traps and all of that good stuff. The island is a 3D structure with Vulkar at the summit of the island, ready to spew fireballs at a moment's notice, and you travel around the island. Your adventurers are represented by small minis in different colours, and the turn is very simple. You'll have 2 cards in hand, and you use one to move around the island. And as you move around the island, you pick up treasure, you take your snapshots, or you steal treasure from fellow adventurers. The cards not only allow movement, but they also give additional actions. You can launch fireballs, snakes or bees. You can change bits of the scenery so you can block any attack from other players. Should you hit any of your opponents with any of these attacks and they fall over, they give you that treasure. However, if you hit yourself with one of your attacks, which believes me happens, you have to throw some of your treasure into the gaping maw. The game ends by getting the three different snapshots and then returning to the helipad and calling the helicopter back. Your remaining adventurers then have 2 more turns to get to the helipad before you leave them to the mercies of the island. And the scoring is based upon how much treasure you've brought back, whether you've managed to secure all of the snapshots and how much that brings in before the helicopter leaves. And if you are first onto the helicopter, you can dip into the gaping maw and take the most valuable piece of treasure with you, so you get a little bonus for being the first to leave the island. And that basically sums it up. Shawnee, what are your thoughts on Fireball Island?
Well, you've made it sound like a tactical masterpiece, and it is not that.
Have I? That was literally not what I was going for.
You mentioned rules and scoring.
Oh, well, there's rules and scoring. It's a game.
Okay, so we'll start. The very first thing that you notice about Fireball Island is the table presence. I don't think it's the prettiest game, but for just that presence, it's probably one of the most spectacular things that we have.
It's imposing, right? It just sits there like it's all moulded plastic. It's 3D. It comes in different parts. It's really impressive. It has the scenery on there that you can move. And then at the very summit of the island, as I mentioned when I was describing it, you've got the head of Vulkar, which you drop the marbles or the fireballs into, and they spew in all directions. It really is an imposing looking game.
It is an imposing looking game, but when it is being set up, I think it does take quite a while to set up, to the point where there are times where you're not going to be able to play this game because of the setup and takedown time. It takes quite a while. You have to put things together if you've got the expansions, and we'll bring in the expansions later and we'll talk about which ones are good and maybe which ones aren't so good. If you're bringing in those expansions, it takes a little bit more time. You've got to balance a load of marbles and tokens on various parts. You've got to put the trees in. You've got to connect the 3 main moulded bits together. So there has been times when the presence has gone against it for me because of that setup time. I
mean, you do have big hands, so is this a factor?
It's not too bad. I think the bees, we'll get onto the bees in a little bit. The bees are the worst. The snakes as well.
Yeah,
they're quite hard. No, not the bees at all, because you don't balance them. It's the snakes. The snakes, they're quite difficult to balance, and when one goes, they all tend to go.
Yeah, I mean, it can be quite difficult. Not difficult, but it can be tricky to set up.
I don't think it's tricky. It's just laborious.
But I would go on to say that I think the game is worth it. I would say the payoff is worth it, and therefore, it's a bit fiddly to put it up, and it's, I hate putting games away, but you have to. You can't just shove it in an Asda bag or what have you. That's fine. There's enough enjoyment there, I think, that I don't begrudge.
Oh, I don't. Once it's out there, and you see our son's eyes light up. And as he's trying to get Daddy with a fireball or an ember, then that's when the magic comes to play. Now, we didn't really know much about Fireball Island for ourselves in the UK. It's very much an American game that American families kind of grew up with and understood, and there was that bubble of excitement when it was announced that Restoration Games were going to be redoing this, and we kind of in the UK were like, what is this? But I jumped on board anyway, because I'd heard good reports, people like Tom Vassell, who's a big family man, saying that his kids just adored it and it was just crazy, silly, slapstick fun, and I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did as well. I normally give you the hairy eyeball when another Kickstarter walks itself through the door, and I stare at another massive box wondering, which one of the kids are sleeping in the garage tonight. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's that rare dexterity game that I don't just sit there and roll my eyes at. Because I hate
dexterity game.
Yeah, come on, of course it is, because you've got to be trying to get the marbles off. And
I suppose when you're flicking the embers, but when you're dropping the fireballs, they can go anyway.
No, but when you're flicking the embers and such like that, I think it's got a mild amount of dexterity. If only watching you putting the snakes back on the ledge, that's quite funny.
Well, that's just not nice. Mocking the afflicted. How many times did I put the last one on and knock that one and all of them went at the same time?
So many times, and it got funnier
then they take the embers with them, so I'd just be like, oh, I have to do the whole side of the island again.
I know, but me and James found it hilarious.
Yeah, James fell off his chair a few times.
He did.
So, with this game, I really don't think there's enough there for us to do like a deep review, because it is crazy, silly fun. There is a little bit of tactics in terms of you've got cards to play that alter the way that your move is going to happen, and you've got a choice of those cards. So maybe you can take more treasures this turn and get yourself in a place to where you're going to get treasures the next turn and chase after each other with the embers. But really, there's not too much. So what there is the expansions. So the main expansions are the Wreck of the Crimson Cutlass, you have Crouching Tiger Hidden Bees, and you have The Last Adventurer. So should we talk about each of those individually and talk about maybe what they bring to the game and whether they're worth it? Okay. So very much the biggest one of the lot is the Wreck of the Crimson Cutlass. How did you find that one, Natalie?
I don't know whether I'm going to agree with you on this or not. I was not bowled over by that. Again, visually, it's very impressive. It's, this shipwreck that sits off to the side of the main island. You get there by going into one of the caves on the island, rolling 6-sided dice, put 1, 2 or 3 on there, and that you can move from that cave to 1, 2 or 3 spot on the pirate ship. And then you don't pick up treasure that you score points off, you pick up gems that will give you an extra move. You can say, okay, well, I'm discarding this gem. You can score points, but it's a negligible amount. And they are to be used for giving you an extra go. And you can also get another colour of snapshot to round out your collection. There is a danger element there. You don't get hit by fireballs or anything, but you get cannonballs off the crow's nest.
Yes.
I found it a little bit... I find that one a little bit pointless. I'm not going to lie to you. I just don't think it adds a tremendous amount to the game.
It's the one that adds the most table presence but the least fun.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
Absolutely.
I think you're absolutely... Yeah, we do. There you go. I think you're absolutely right. I find it quite boring. You kind of mix in the cards, and half the time you get a Crimson Cutlass card come out, and our son insists on knocking over the crow's
And there's
nest.
no one there.
With nobody there, he just likes to knock the crow's nest over with the cannonballs. Okay, fair enough, go on. Once you've been over there, maybe grab a couple of the purple gems that give you that extra go and get yourself the snapshot, which is worth more points than the regular snapshots. It doesn't seem much point in you staying around there or going back to it ever again. So you're going to visit it once, if at all. And yeah, it didn't have the fun that it probably promised. Now, the next one, I think, me personally, is a lot better. It's the Crouching Tiger Hidden Bees. So what that brings to the fray is if you happen to disturb a hornet's nest, or a bee's nest, because they are bees, not hornets, then you basically pour a load of tiny yellow marbles into Vulkar.
10 or 12, isn't it?
Yeah, there's loads of them, and they just kind of buzz down the side of the mountain, and if you get stung, then the next turn you don't get to move as far or do as much on your next turn.
You get half movement, don't you?
So it kind of hinders you because you've been stung. And the Crouching Tiger, we're not very good at it, but what it is one of those little flicky things that you press down and it kind of launches forward. We used to get them in Christmas crackers, didn't we? And the tiger kind of leaps up. I think towards the end of our first go of this, we were getting better and getting closer because it's quite a big penalty if the tiger hits you.
I think you're being very generous with your definition of better. You might have been getting better.
I nearly got you once.
I just started to cry in a corner because I can't do those things.
No, you can't.
I'm really bad at dexterity games.
As was evident. But I think it was almost no extra table presence,
No.
but a better expansion.
And I found the bees great fun. I thought just the act of tipping all of those marbles in and watching them go here, there, and everywhere, running down the channels of the island.
And the beehives were worth enough points for you to go and grab them. They were like 6 or 7 points, and it was worth going and grabbing them and risking getting stung. But then, when you pour the bees in, if anyone else gets stung as well, happy days.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're in agreement on that. Now, the last adventurer, it brings in that Indiana Jones style boulder to the game, and it also brings a little idol that's surrounded by serpents, and when you take the idol, the serpents will try and come and nip you, and I can't remember for the life of me what the serpents do if they get you. They do something. And
you're poisoned, aren't you?
Yeah, poisoned, and I can't remember what it does, but the boulder is really a kind of, you know what, if you can't get someone with an ember, you're going to get them with the boulder, because the boulder's going to run over things and not go down channels, and it's much easier to hit someone with the boulder.
Yeah, but it comes out of a cave, doesn't it? So you've got to hope. Emanate. Oh, look at you.
Look at me.
It's got to come out of a cave, so you've got to hope that your opponents are near a cave. Wonder how often that happens then.
To you, quite a lot.
Yes, I wonder why. When you ushering our son towards that option. Don't think I forget. I remember.
So I think for me, it's the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Bees is the best expansion for this.
Agreed.
And you agree? Okay, brilliant. To sum up for me...
Sorry, can I just jump in there and just say I'm not wild about it? Not because I kept getting get with the boulder. It doesn't really make much difference. I'm not wild about it as a mechanic. I wasn't wild about it as a piece of equipment on the table.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because you tried to roll it and it didn't really go anywhere. Because it's that foam stuff. It's got no weight to it to force the momentum.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, is that you basically flick it at someone.
We'll agree to disagree.
James got you like 100% of the time, which was great. Right, I'm going to sum up on this one. We've kind of probably talked about it more than it needed to be talked about.
I don't know.
It's a very light, lots of fun game that most kids up to a certain age are going to have a lot of fun with. Our son is 6. He absolutely adores it. The only caveat for me is that after a hard day at work, if I've come back and maybe he's got half an hour before bedtime, like 45 minutes, by the time we get this one set up, he's going to bed late. So I'd much rather get something out that is less presence and maybe not as much fun in that sort of scenario. But other than that, it's a great addition to our collection.
Agreed.
That's all we're getting out of you.
Well, I think you've summed up pretty much fairly well. A lot of my enjoyment of this game, I like games, but I hate dexterity games, and I do think that this kind of falls under that.
She actually
umbrella.
does hate them. Like I've never seen anybody hate something so
much. Like everyone goes nuts over Ice Cool, and honest to God, I could throw it on a bonfire for all of me. In any case, I hate dexterity games, but this one I enjoy, and a lot of that is because I see it through my son's eyes, and he adores this game. And I think you're right in saying that children of a certain age will be so excited about flicking those embers, getting mummy or daddy, getting their uncle, paying people back, nicking the treasure, and that's a lot of the fun of it for me.
I think for all three of the games today, I think we could pretty much say our son adores them for different reasons.
Yeah.
But he does like all of them. And one of the adult games that we'll be talking about afterwards.
That was Fireball Island. What's up next, Shawnee?
Okay, so next up is My Little Scythe. As I said, very much the little brother of Scythe itself. And it came out in 2017 from Stonemaier Games, playing 1 to 6 players, and designed by a father and daughter, Hobie and Vienna Chow. It was started off as a My Little Pony rip-off of Scythe, and Jamie Stegmaier loved it so much that he ended up working with them and making the game.
Oh, that's lovely.
There you go.
That's really sweet.
So, in My Little Scythe, players are going to control 2 animals, and they're called the Seekers. And some of these animals you'll recognise as being sort of the offspring or relatives of the animals that are actually on the main game side. The animals come from one of 7 kingdoms surrounding Castle Everfree in the Kingdom of Pom. as I said, Castle Everfree is in the centre of the main board, and what you've got is the 7 kingdoms that I mentioned surrounding it, and you're going to start at the edge of one of these kingdoms. So what we're going to do in the game, the actions that we have available to us are to move. You're going to either move 2 spaces if you don't have any goods with you, or 1 space if you have apple or gems. And the whole point of this is that you're going to be moving those apples and gems to score some of your victory points. We'll get onto that later. You can also move into quests, and quests are going to be things that you can achieve to get resources, and again, part of the endgame conditions. The last thing you can do is move into somebody's space and trigger a fight. Now, the next action you can do is seek. And this is basically how you're going to seed the board. You're going to roll some dice, and the dice are going to tell you what areas of the board you can place those gems, apples, and quests. If you should place gems and apples onto spaces with other people, then you're going to increase your friendship rating. But also, you're going to be looking to place them close to you so that you can gather them. Lastly, the main actions you can do is make. Now, you can make pies, which are used for fighting, by combining apples. You can combine gems to make spells, which are also used for fighting, and they're a card that supplements your pies in a fight. Or you can upgrade your move and make abilities and give yourself an extra ability. All of the things I've talked about are ways to earn trophies, and you need to earn 4 trophies to win this game. You must get to 8 friendship in the friendship track, 8 pies on the pie track, deliver 4 gems or 4 apples to Castle Everfree, win a fight, get both of your upgrades, complete 2 quests, or have in your possession 3 spell cards. And then the game's going to end, and whoever has the most, and there's some tiebreakers, is going to win the game of My Little Scythe. Now, Natalie, especially we've just talked about Fireball Island, and the first thing we talked about was the look of the game. I tried to maybe move around and bring in the look in later, but with My Little Scythe, I can't do that. It's quite a good looking game, isn't it?
It's a fantastic production. It really is a beautiful game. It's, just opening the box and seeing the thought that has gone into the trays where all of the little bits are sat, and the minis are fantastic. It's been a long time since my mini painting days, but I kind of want to crack out the old paints and have a good go at them as well. It really is stunning. I'm not sure how much the game goes for, but I feel it's worth every penny, to be honest with you.
It is an amazing production. So it has the game trays, and there's going to be another game that we talk about later that has the game trays within it. The colours are really stand out. The board is really easy to read. The iconography is great. Yes, the minis are brilliant for painting. Brilliant for young people to paint because they're not massively detailed, but they look great.
They look cuddly. I look at them and they look cuddly.
Cute.
They're very cute.
Apart from maybe the eagles. The eagles don't look so cute.
Yeah.
They just look a bit sinister. But other than the eagles, which upsets me because the eagles are the yellow ones and I always want to play with the yellow, it's an amazing production. It's a really, really top-end production, but you come to expect that with Stone Meyer games.
Absolutely. But the beauty about this game, of course, is that it's not just skin deep. I think the game has got an awful amount going for it. I feel that it's simplified to the right degree. I think it takes those mechanics that we're familiar with in the Scythe game and really brings them down to a level that children can play and get a grasp of quickly. I think there's a decent amount of interaction between people. Sometimes I quite like to be left alone.
Okay, I just want to bring you back, Natalie, to your first point there. The age of the game.
Yeah.
I think it's ever so slightly too old for James. Now, James is a very games literate boy, but at the moment, we bring him in and we play with him on one of our teams. At the moment, some of the things that he would need to do are just slightly out of his drop. He's getting there, But I feel like at the moment we play with him on one of our teams, and we're kind of sort of teaching him slowly how to play this effectively. Because his first game, all he wanted to do was give everybody apples.
It's because he's a sweet boy.
He is a sweet boy.
I will say to that point that it is the published age is 8+, and James is 6. So I feel that that's the right level. I feel like it's hitting the right level. I mean, there are a few mechanics that don't necessarily click in the mind of younger players. But having said that, we have played a few games with James now, and the last time that we did play, he was able to play on his own to a certain degree.
Yes.
He did have his own, and he was getting the idea of it.
Yes, it built up to that process.
Yeah.
James is a very games literate boy. He's played games since he was 2 or 3, and we've always sort of not forced games onto him, but we've always been quite keen because we're keen gamers ourselves. And he's always been quite keen to join in with what we seem to be enjoying.
And quite frankly, why do you have kids if you can't brainwash them?
Well, indeed, this is true. So, yeah, that was one of the main things for me. Is like, yeah, so it was slightly more difficult for James. Now, normally, in a game that says 8+, I'm quite happy. Like, I'm fairly confident James is going to get it because he is games literate. This one is a gamer's game. It's a gamer's children's game. If you know what I'm getting at,
I absolutely
it's not a mass market sort of game that they just whack a number at. I think that Stone by Games have actually thought about this one and thought actually 8+ is the right number for this game, and I think it probably is, as you said.
I see what's going to happen here is that you're just inviting me onto the show and just whipping all my good points right from out underneath me. Because I had those exact words on my notes.
Shall I just leave?
Yeah, just let me finish the show on my own. It'd be grand. Just give me your notes.
You don't need my notes.
Jog on.
Nobody needs those.
I do have a couple of niggly bits.
Okay.
If you want me to.
Okay, yeah, go on, crack on.
Okay. So, I was thinking, there's a couple of things about, and I can't pretend that this is my own thoughts, but I was reading a few reviews and it struck a chord with me. Was why could we not have had a seek action upgrade? Because in the grown-up game of Scythe, everything can be upgraded. And I'm just wondering about that choice. I don't know whether that's me just getting greedy and I would have liked more bits.
Off the top of my head, the seek action is basically to make sure that there's stuff on the board. And I feel like having upgrading all 3 things might be a bit too much for the child to grasp. And it'll take longer to do because you'd have to do 3 actions. And it maybe didn't balance in with the ease of the other thing. Like 2 quests is easy enough.
I know, but I'm not saying that you have to have all 3 upgrades to get your trophy. You still have 2 upgrades, but the option is there to go for the 3. Because when we have been playing games with James, we have got to the point where we're just kind of treading water to get that last trophy. And you're like, oh, well, what shall I do? And you're sitting there with bunches of stuff. You could have done another upgrade.
Yeah,
I mean, do you know what? This is the pickiest of bit.
I suppose you could have it where you get to choose, ignore a colour and place it wherever you want to. But I think it's just generally there to seed the board.
Fair enough.
Make sure that there's gems and crystals and give you a chance to be friendly to each other.
See, this is why you get paid the big bucks.
yeah. If 0's a big number, then I get paid it, yeah, for sure. So I think it does teach the children certain things. So it teaches them the balance between being nice and helping yourself. So obviously, yeah, it's great to be nice, and we always encourage our children to be nice and to give, but also think about themselves. Because as we said, James, when he was first playing this, all he wanted to be was nice and go up on that friendship track because he wanted to be everyone's friend, and he lost horribly. Even though we were saying, no, you have to take some of these things for yourself. No, I want to give that to mummy. Never to daddy, always to mummy. I want to give that to mummy. So slowly he's coming around and thinking, you know what? Yeah, I'll give that to mummy, but I want that over here because that fits in with this sort of progression that I've got going on, so I can collect that apple, then I can move on and collect that apple. I can use a portal to get to here, and all of a sudden you can see his brain working in slightly different ways, and it is kind of a next level game for him.
Absolutely. And I can't disagree with that. The last game we played when he was playing on his own, it was a real joy to watch him put that sequence of events together for himself.
Yeah.
Like, well, I want to make an upgrade. I want to, I want to get some gems and deliver them. He had very definite goals in his mind that he wanted to do, that he had decided upon. And using, obviously, the actions in the game, he'd come across a way of getting there. And honestly, for me, it was best part of the game, because I had never seen that before from him, because this is the next level game for him.
It is, definitely. And I think later on we're going to ask him himself to name his favourite of this. And I don't think that Scythe, I don't know what he's going to say, but I don't think Scythe is going to come out on top just yet. But I think if we ask him in a year or 2 years, the other games will all be but forgotten.
Yeah.
And I think Scythe will still be very much, right at the top of his gaming choices. I think it does help him, the things I said, balance between nice and helping yourself, but also plan ahead, coordinate, and have targets. Set himself a target, right, and how do I achieve this target? I want to get those apples to castle level 3. How am I going to do that? Because I need 4 of them. So, okay, there's one over there. I'm going to roll the dice. Oh, look, I can place one near me. That helps there. And I might as well give one to Daddy because it helps my friendship, and that pushes me towards another target. So he's starting to look at those targets. How do I get to them? So very, very important in life.
Absolutely.
Now, we're talking about this very much. James likes this and James does this. How did it play for you as an adult, playing with him? Because we're talking about it's the next step. So, therefore, I think there should be some enjoyment for us in this game.
Do you know what? I think there is enough game there. I don't know that I would play it with just adults, but it's not one of his games that he pulls out that I roll my eyes over and play because he loves it. I genuinely enjoy the games, and I'm actually with him. I'm trying to win. It's a game that I'm trying to win, and I don't really normally bother with some of his games that he yanks out. But with this one, I'm like, no, this is a proper game. There's actual game mechanics behind it. They have simplified those mechanics, but they're still there. They're not simplified to a point where they're non-existent or they're not valuable. I enjoy my plays of this, the times that we've played. I haven't won yet. It's upsetting. I'm playing a 6-year-old. I'm devastated, I'm not going to lie to you. But then again, I don't win regular Scythe, so I'm really bad at both of them.
Another thing, and going back to sort of the lessons before I actually answer my own question, just quickly, is it teaches him that it's not always great to fight.
Yeah.
So yes, winning a battle is helpful, but it's going to knock your friendship down. And he very much would just pile into me normally and happily do it and just destroy me. But now he thinks about it, thinks actually if I do attack Daddy, regardless if I win or lose, my friendship is going to go down, and that's going to actually hurt me because I really want my friendship to be going up. And if your friendship goes too low in Scythe, in my little Scythe, then you can't win those trophies. No. So it's another important lesson. But going back to myself, yes, I'd never choose to play this above Scythe itself. Love Scythe, one of my favourite games. It was in my top 50. But as you said, Natalie, you said it perfectly, it's something that you can bring out and enjoy, not just through the eyes of him, but through our own eyes, and we're actually thinking about what we're doing and what we're going to upgrade and the choices that we're going to make to get things in motion. So absolutely.
Shall I do some summing up then?
Go on then.
I don't think it's a big shock what's going to come next. So My Little Scythe is a fantastic example of how you take a grown-up game and simplify it for children. However, with the caveat that this is very much a gamer's children game. You know, I wouldn't get random 6 to 8 year olds around to play this game. It does have a language there that needs to have been built on, but as far as that goes, it is fantastic. It's beautiful. The mechanics are there. It does that thing that we want our games to do for our children, which is they're having fun, but it helps teach them. You know, absolutely 5 out of 5 for My Little Scythe for me.
5 out of 5. Wow.
As a children's game, absolutely.
Very good. Okay.
Absolutely.
So for me, an amazing production. It's definitely that next step game for game literate children, as Natalie did say. I do like the lessons that it's teaching James. Targets, coordination, planning ahead, balance between being overly nice and helping yourself. The game really does ramp up. It starts off and you're not doing a lot, but it ramps up as it goes on. The longevity of the game is there because you can play with not just different factions who don't really do much, but you have those cards that allow you that tiny little power that only you can do, but it's still not overwhelming to children. Yeah, My Little Scythe, absolute winner. And as I said, I think this one will stay in James's collection and James's mind a lot longer than some of the other games that he has. So that's My Little Scythe. It's a double win from the Game Pit.
My turn.
Your turn.
Absolutely fantastic. I am the special guest. You've been waiting to hear this one. This is Jungle Race. It's published in 2018. The publisher is Cranio Creations and the designer is Simone Luciani. I've absolutely butchered. Luciani, maybe. I have butchered that name. Honestly, I apologise if you listen. You probably don't, but if you do, I am so sorry. And the published age on this is 6+. This is an incredibly simple card game. And the aim is to get a certain race card to the front of the line. And there are points awarded for first, second and third place. So far, so good. And there are a total of 3 rounds. You have a very simple setup in the middle of the table. You've got 5 racetrack cards. You have got 5 standees, all different cars, very much reminiscent of Wacky Races. And then each player is dealt a hand of 7 cards from a deck, which is made up of a certain amount of those cards representing each of the racers. And your turn is incredibly simple. You lay down 1 card from your hand, which moves the car that matches that card forward 1 space, and it swaps spaces with the car in front of it. And in this way, you make the standees all jostle for position. And if you're on your turn, you're happy with the order of the cards as they are, then you lay your card face down and you pass. After all your cards are played in your hand, you get points, as I said, for each card that you have matched the cards that come in first, second or third. You get 3 points for every card that you match with the first, 2 for second, 1 for third. That's it. Shawnee, go.
Yeah, this one really did fly below the radar. So it came out in last year's Essen, and it wasn't in the main Cranio because it was over in their family booth, and I didn't see a lot of people going up to it. I'd done a little bit of research beforehand, and I'd liked the general premise, and I went up, had a look. Very small box. It wasn't going to interfere with my luggage going back in the plane, and it was a very small price point. I think it might have been €10, maybe 15. So yeah, it kind of flew under the radar, and I wasn't expecting that much from it. I took a bit of a punt, and Natalie, for once, one of my punts actually went through the posts and scored some points.
Believe it. Normally, you bring home something that may not be quite so good, which you've taken a punt on, and we know it's not going to be quite so good.
Yeah, let's not talk about Wonder Zoo.
That now. Oh, God. Anyway, this, thankfully, is no Wonder Zoo. Thankfully.
So in the game, that said, you're trying to influence your cards. So you're going to get that hand of cards. You've got to make an assessment, as in how many of each colour you have, where they are in the race order at the moment, and then you're going to have to make that assessment whether to push them early towards the front and hope they stay there, or hang back and wait to see if other people do the job for you, and then you can use the cards as a sort of a rescue act if they start moving back down. So very simply, you play a card and that card moves forward 1 spot in the race. Really simple premise, but I think it delivers slightly more than the sum of its parts, Natalie.
I agree wholeheartedly. Now, when we first started playing this game, you weren't particularly enamoured, I don't think.
I was for a very quick
It's not
game.
the impression I got.
I think I was probably suffering from Essen fatigue because we
Maybe.
played it fairly early after I got back. I was knackered. I played like umpteen games, and yeah, I probably wasn't dancing up and down about it, but it's come to be one of our favourite games. So we like that race setting.
Yeah.
It's a setting that James understands because we've got Monza, which is very much a family favourite, and he understands that sort of race setting and pushing a colour to trying to win through colour and playing coloured cards rather than like getting colours on a dice. It's a similar setting for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the beauty about this particular game is it's very quick. So, you know, when Sean does come back from work and he is tired, but James wants to play a game, this is one we can just whip off the shelves and have it played in 15, 20 minutes. And James has got to play a game, and he's got to play a game with his daddy and his mummy, and he's very happy about it. I happen to have a lot of affection for this game, and not just because James enjoys it, but I actually enjoy it myself. I'm really bad at it, but I quite enjoy, you know, thinking along a tactical nature. And
it is exciting when you can see what other people are going to play, and you really want, I don't know, the elephant in a certain car to win the race, because that's, you score your points based on the amount of cards that you've played. So let's say it's 3 points for first place. Now, if I've managed to get that first place and 4 cards I've played during the round of that same type, then I'm going to get 12 points because I've got 4 cards of the winner. And then obviously 2 points for second place, 1 point for third. So you want to get as many of yours in that top 3 as possible, and maybe use your other cards just to mess around with people. Yeah, so does everyone else. And you're kind of hoping that you're going to get a buddy that's pushing the same card as you, so maybe you can rely on them a little bit. And it's, again, we talk about sort of how the progression through the 6-year-old's eyes. First time he played it, he didn't get it all, really. He got the basic mechanics, but he didn't really get that you
the
had
tactical nature,
yeah.
that it had to kind of, he was just playing cards as and when he felt like it, because that round he wanted to put a green card down, which is very sweet and very cute, but it's not going to win anybody anything. But the more that we play it now, he is learning how to hang back, how to read what we're putting down and thinking, oh, well, you know, Mummy's put a purple card down this turn. Maybe that's something that can help me, or maybe I don't have any purple cards, I don't want that to go any further, so he's going to mess with me that way. And again, because this is a children's game, that's how we're evaluating these children's games, is seeing it through the eyes of our son. But again, it's one of those that I get genuine enjoyment out of.
Yeah, I think I do too. As I said, it's quite exciting seeing what everyone else is. Frustrating at times, but you've also got to have that poker face.
But, you know, also it's so quick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so quick. It's real bang for your buck. Mm-hmm. It's very quick. It's a lot of enjoyment for a short amount of time. And if you lose, you lose.
You can't really let on. If someone starts pushing the one that you really want at the front back, you've got to kind of smile and go, ha ha, that's funny. Yes, that's not a problem. And
especially if you've already spent all of your cards.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what James is learning. He sees us pushing something forward, and he might not necessarily care whether that goes forward or back, but he'll push it back just to mess with us. So we'll push it forward again, and we'll be wasting our cards early. And it's not the cleverest game to ever step forth. It's not the most involved game. A lot of it is luck, cards you get, but there's that little bit of theatre, that little bit of magic, and we get something out of it, and James gets something out of it.
Absolutely. I think what it does very well. Spoilers.
So, yeah, nothing really to sum up. It was a game that did go below the radar at Essen, and probably is staying below that radar. If you've got a young child between, I'd say, 5 and 9, pick it up, give it a go. You might find that it is one of those games that you take on the train with you, or take on a family holiday. It doesn't take up much room in the luggage, and it's 15 minutes of fun. And you can play it 2 or 3 times on the go. So, a hidden gem.
A hidden gem.
Natalie, you want to sum up for us?
Yeah, it's a simple, quick game, but surprisingly needs to have some tactical thinking, which is an appropriate level for its target age group. And it's enjoyable for adults as well. Well, for this adult in particular.
Okay, so that's our family games in this pitter-patter episode.
Oh, it's never going to happen.
No.
Stop trying to make it happen.
Pitter-patter, come on. Pit-patter? I don't know. Anyway, we will see you in the second half of the episode for some more in-depth games. So, hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Game Pit, episode 127. Next game is, and this one is a little bit of a crossover, Natalie. We do play this one with James, but it's kind of a family stroke adulty game, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think he's itching now to try it on his own.
Yeah, we haven't let him play on his own just yet, but I think he's nearly there. So it's the Grimm Forest. It's a 2018 release from Druid City Games, designed by Tim Eisner and playing 2 to 4 players. So in the Grimm Forest, players are relatives of the legendary Three Little Pigs, and we are having an epic house building competition with the famous fairy tale characters looking on and helping, and this will not go smoothly. So players have personal cards that match resource collection areas on the table, and each round you're going to secretly choose where to go, whether to the forest, the field, or the clay pit, or the market in a 4-player game. And you get to collect those resources. If you're all alone, you get all of them. If you're not, you're going to divide them up. The next round, you're going to either build these huts, and you need 3 to win, or take 1 resource of your choice. This is all very bland, and now is where it ramps up a little bit. You can also take a Fable card as an action, and these are very much the heart of the game. So Fable cards are played in the first round and can completely change what happens, mess with others, or help you. Also, when you build the walls of your buildings, you get a friend card to use, and friends are going to sit with you, or you're going to pass them onwards, and you can only have 1 of these cards, and it's going to give you an ongoing power. As I said, the first to build 3 buildings is the winner of the Grimm Forest. It's another one, Natalie. We have some very, and I know Ronan loves it when I use this word, striking games.
We do, I was just thinking that.
In this episode.
Pretty.
This is another beaut.
Isn't it just?
And it's another one that uses the game trays to hold
you like
the components.
A game tray?
Oh, I love a game tray.
Don't you love a game tray?
I do love a game tray.
Sometimes I think you buy games just for the game tray.
That is not
True.
wholly untrue.
Yeah, there we go.
That's it. And again, it's not just the game trays, although we might as well just advertise for them at this point because they are beautiful. It has gorgeous art. It does have those tactile buildings that you physically build. You put the foundations, the walls and the roof, bit by bit.
And I don't know about James being excited, but I like that bit.
You do.
They
and
slot together
the
nice.
minis are gorgeous.
Aren't they?
You have those legendary fairy tale characters, the big bad wolf, you've got the giant, you've got the troll under the bridge.
Dragon. I'm painting that dragon.
You can paint the dragon. I want the troll under the bridge.
You can have the troll under the bridge.
Amazing. Again, I would imagine quite easy to paint. A little bit more detailed than my little Scythe, but still, they're just begging to be painted. It is a lovely production. Even the player boards, each one of them has a scene. So I had Snow White on my board last time we played, and it's like a winter scene. I had
Jack and the Beanstalk and Goldilocks and the Three Bears on mine.
And really detailed little player boards, and they're beautiful. The whole game's beautiful.
The whole game is beautiful.
It is. How does it play? Don't sum up right
I'm
just now.
I'm not summing up right now. I will say, to lead in, that perhaps the level of game is not on a par with its production value.
Let's let the listeners know that you had a right old one on you last time we played. Yeah, well, ain't all right, I'll stop, because we kept messing with you.
You did, and I think that actually I'm going to come to that.
It was hilarious.
It wasn't hilarious
James
for me.
laughed.
James laughs every time I get done over. So, we've played it a few times now. And the things that have come forth to me as the first time we played it, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good game. But as we are playing it more and more often, I have a couple of questions, shall we say.
Go on.
Because, as we've mentioned at the top, that James is not yet ready to play this on his own. He's not far off, but at the moment he hasn't played it on his own. We're playing it in essence as a 2-player game, and I don't think that stands up particularly well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because I think, every take that element of the game, and there's a lot of take that. The Fable cards are pretty much sort of smack you around the face with a wet fish, aren't they? And that's what they are there for. And yeah, if you've got to target the other person, it can get a bit much.
We had at one point, you hit me with a Fable card that got rid of my resources and all my Fable cards.
That was good.
It wasn't, because then it took me 2 rounds to get back up, and every time one of these rounds came round, you hit me with another card, and I never recovered.
That was brilliant. Loved it.
Should we talk about Forum Trajanum?
Let's not talk about anything ever again. Okay, that's been the Game Pit. And most certainly, you'll never hear from us again, and we will never talk about Forum Trajanum ever again.
We should.
Why are you being mean?
Anyway, we're not talking about Forum Trajanum. Just know that there's a little dance in my heart right now. It's a very simple, very beautiful game. There's not a tremendous amount to it. It's inoffensive. There's not a lot to say, I think, about this game, to be honest with you.
I think there are 2 elements to the game. I think it's a really bog standard resource management and economy game. Really, it just wouldn't be a game without the Fable cards, and to a smaller degree, the friend cards.
Oh, just to jump in there. Friend. Just to jump in there. One of the times we played, a friend card came up where you couldn't play a Fable card from your hand. You just had to take the top Fable card, and that was the best fun.
It was fun.
That was the fun bit. For me, that was a really good one. I was hoping we were going to get that friend again, but we haven't had them since.
But the friends do mix it up, and they do change things, and you don't have to take the friend yourself. So if somebody's got a really powerful friend and that's really messing you up, you can hand them the friend that you've picked up, and they have to swap it and put the other one into the deck. So I quite like that mechanic. Yeah, I like that mechanic. I think the Fable cards, yeah, you know what, they are swingy. They are unfair at times, but the game is so quick, and it is a sort of almost a comedy factor to it. It's like, ha, you go there and you've lost your stuff. But again, there's the guessing element of it. So, yes, I might have the big bad wolf, and yes, he might knock down your straw or wood house that you've spent all that time building, but I have to get him to you. I have to guess where you might be going. And sometimes it's easy, like you might only have a straw building left to build and you've built 2 parts of it, so I know you're going for straw. But then you know that I know that you're going for straw, so then maybe you go somewhere else to trick me. But I've already played that wolf card, so you know the wolf's coming, and then that's where the beauty is. The Fable cards drive a lot of decisions around them, and they're not just the swingy nature that's written on them, they also drive the thought behind them, and yes, it's coming, but where's it coming? Because it is that turnover of a card, so you all insta-reveal after the Fable card's played where you're all going. So I think there is that theatre of the card turn. Have I guessed right? And the other person going, or have I guessed right? Have I avoided the wolf? And even just down to the basic, have I managed to get on that spot on my own? Or is there somebody else on it? And I think you're right. That will be better with 3 and 4 players.
I am right.
You are righty McWriterson.
Listeners, just mark this down in your diary. I will be taking a recording of this wherever I go, and just to play it every so often. Just, you're right. No qualifications, just, you're right. And we'll get along with our day.
You're not a very nice person, are you?
I am a delight.
A delight?
I'm a delight.
A delight, okay. It is almost a kid's game, I would say.
Absolutely.
It definitely has that sort of family nature with the fairy tales, with the ease of the play. It's quite easy to play. But I think those Fable cards just take it away from being an out-and-out kids game and family game because they are quite mean. And I think young children wouldn't take it so well. That's why at the moment we put James on a team with one of us again. Because not just because he wouldn't really grasp some of the subtleness of where to place, but also he would take it quite hard if he lost everything. Because the giant stood on his house or something that he built.
Tiny boy.
Tiny boy. He's not a tiny boy. He's massive. He's nearly as big as you, but then again, you're quite small.
So 400 Janum then?
You're dying to crowbar that in, aren't you?
Honestly, I'm unbeaten. I mean, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I'm unbeaten.
How many points have you beaten me by in the last 2 times?
Have I beaten you?
Yeah, but no, generally, it's really annoying.
It's 2 points every time. I love it.
2 points. I think, 3 times on the bounce, you've beaten me by 2 points.
What was even funnier about that is the last time you tried to play my tactic and you still couldn't beat me.
I was forced to play that tactic.
I don't care. Oh.
Are you done?
Yeah, we can get back to the actual one we're supposed to be talking about now.
Do you want to go and play Orly on now?
Why got to be like that?
Was it double the points I got?
Why got to be like that?
Was it double? Did I double your points?
Did you win extra for doubling points?
Did I double your points?
Did you win extra?
Did I double your points?
Did you win extra?
But were the points double?
Not quite. There may have been 60 points between us.
I'll tell you what, the tumbleweed that's gone through his kitchen.
Was that an extra win?
Yeah, very much.
No, it wasn't.
That just meant that I have won. I've won at life. It was. I tell you what, that was almost as good a moment as when I cooked that beef.
Oh, God alive! No.
I'll tell you what, people.
I'm not here for beef.
If you want lessons on cooking a nice bit of roast beef
and how to destroy a kitchen in under an hour,
doesn't matter. Collateral damage. The beef that emanated from that wreckage was truly amazing, and you can't deny it.
That was a good...
God, deny it. That was a fantastic bit of beef.
I'm not going to deny that it was a good piece of
I've now retired from cooking beef because that was so good.
I mean, it wasn't Michelle Roux Jr. good. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it was better than that.
Oh, how very dare
I told you he phoned me the next day asking me how I got it that nice.
In your dreams.
She's just staring at me now. Anyway, I think that's
this is a bit of a tangent.
The biggest tangent we've ever been
Maybe
on.
we should circle back to what we're actually supposed to be talking about.
Beef. It's like a Dan Hughes podcast. Just talking about random things.
Just talk about dumb stuff now.
I'm going to go and make a table in a minute. And then I'm going to 3D print something.
3D print your table?
3D print a table. You say you missed the trick there, Dan. You didn't 3D print a table. Where were we? What are we talking about?
What are we talking about? Where am I? What's the day?
Am I?
What's going on? Who are you?
I don't know.
Can we please, for the love of everything holy, come back to where we were supposed to be? The game.
The game.
Oh,
Grimm Forest. That's the one. Right.
Go.
Is it a kid's game? It is a little bit too mean to be a children's game and even a family game. I think you're looking at slightly older kids. Anyone who can take that sort of comic book meanness, I think that's where it sits.
Got a question for you.
Go on then.
Do you think...
You have to roast it for about 2 hours.
Basted the thing.
You threw a bit of
It was practically me that did it. It was practically me that did it.
Go on, what's your question?
Oh, Tilly, can you come and check it? Does it look all right?
I just wanted you to bask in its glory.
In any case, I do have a question. Let's get back to it. And it's not about roast beef. Right. Do you think that there's a lot of plays in it?
I think...
And thus value for money?
Is, because we've played it 3 or 4 times now. And I'm always surprised at the moment by the Fable cards, as you said. We haven't come across that one where you top deck. Again, I think there's a big enough deck in there for at least another few plays. An expansion would be really easy to do. You could just add in new Fable cards and maybe a new type of building and sort of new friends and stuff. Very easy to add expansion in it. You don't get a lot of friends during the game, so I think the longevity still is in there. I think it will hit a roadblock though. At some point, it will hit a roadblock and we'll be just, you know what, we've seen that before. We don't need to play that anymore. It hasn't got there yet, for me. Or James. James loves it.
James.
Would you like to sum up?
I'm going
on
to
the
sum
Grimm
up
Forest?
because I have thoughts.
Oh!
I do. I think that it's a little bit too much mean for a family game, but there is not enough there for it to be a purely adult game. Yes, it has the Fable cards, and yes, it has the friend cards, but I find the actions just a bit tedious. Like, I've got one of 3 places to go. I'll go there. Yeah, okay, someone else might be there with me, but I'll get half of that. Yeah, all right, fine. It's a bit too samey for me. There isn't enough, I think, to do within half of the game to make me think, oh, yeah, let's keep playing it. It's got much more to go. I think it's a beautiful game. I like the idea of it, and it's fun for me personally. It's fun for a couple of go-rounds, but, I mean, I'd be very much surprised if I could stomach another 2 or 3 games out of it. To be honest, that's my personal opinion, which I think you differ from, perhaps.
Yeah, well, but you could stomach some more of my beef.
Oh, for the love of everything's sake.
And for me, the Grimm Forest, yes, I think I give it a little bit of a pass because of how beautiful it is and how pretty it is, and
Kind of why you married me.
Indeed, the tactile enjoyment of putting the houses together. It does get a little bit of a pass because it is a very bog standard, boring game without the Fable cards. I think what the Fabled cards do is they do make it interesting, they make it exciting, and within a limit. I'm not saying I'm sitting there like chewing the table out of excitement, but I'm sitting there thinking, oh, this will be funny if this lands. If I can make this land and get them with the other player with this, then it's going to be funny. It really doesn't outstay its welcome. It's out, set up in no time because of the game trays. You literally just pull the game trays out and open them, and they hold all the components for you. It's played in maybe half an hour if there's no faffing. It's a turn off your brain type game and have a laugh. This would be perfect with adults if you're having a beer and you just wanted to have a laugh and mess around with people. I don't think there's going to be a massive amount of play left in it after a little while for me, but at the moment I'm quite enjoying my games of the Grimm Forest. Natalie, this one is the one that you've sort of been holding out for. Or is it? Is it a good X-Files game?
I want to believe, Shawnee.
Is the truth out there?
Well, let's find out. Come with me. So, as you will have guessed from that, the next game up is Legendary Encounters, The X-Files, published in 2018 by Upper Deck. The designer is Ben Chichowski and Daniel Mandel, and the published age is 14 and over. So, if you are familiar with any of Legendary Encounter games, then this will not be a difficult game for you to get your head around. It follows the standard setup where you kind of choose what sort of game you want. In the X-Files world, you can either work through each of the 9 seasons that are there, or play it in blocks of 3. And you can mix and match your seasons as well. And you seed your various decks with leads, informants, allies, and syndicate enemies. So it's, again, standard tableau. You'll have the top row, which is the shadows. That's the enemy row, which, again, we're all very familiar with. And that's where the seasons will run through. You'll get your monsters, conspiracies, leads, and events will appear. And then you'll have one row on the bottom, which is the bureau, and that's where the agents that you can recruit will appear. And when these rows are replenished at the start of a player's turn, the cards enter play face down, and you have to spend strikes or stars, which are the game's currency, to scan the cards before you can either defeat the monsters, chase down leads, or recruit agents to your cause. So if a monster ever makes it to the field, because you haven't been able to deal with it through using your strikes mostly, you start to get hit with strikes yourself, and if one of the characters of your team dies, you will lose. If a lead makes it to the field, you lose the opportunity to gain vital evidence, and then the final encounter with the end game will be that much more difficult. Eventually you work through the entire conspiracy deck and come to the end game, which will be the big boss that you have to defeat. I think that's it broadly. Have I covered everything? I think I've covered everything. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think you pretty much have, Natalie. I think if you've ever played any of the Legendary Encounters, it's that with a little bit of fluff and faff thrown in. They always try and twist it up slightly. So I think the first thing that they had to get right with any licensed game like this is the feel and the thematic feel of the game. Does it feel like you are Mulder and Scully or Skinner or whoever trying to sort of fight this faceless corporation that are sort of running the world and doing nasty things behind everyone's back. And I do think that a lot of the game lends itself to that feeling. Some of the things that I'll point out are like in Alien, the shadows, everything comes in shadow and you can't see it, so you've got to actually scan to be able to see it. Again, very thematic, because obviously in the X-Files a lot of the people work in the shadows there. And having the Bureau, which was different to me, coming face down as well, because obviously some of these people have infiltrated the Bureau, so you can sometimes you turn over and there's a traitor or an infiltrator in the Bureau itself. Very thematic, and it felt like I was against this faceless corporation.
Just going to interject there quickly. I'm always Scully. Just not whomever you choose to be. I am Scully.
Yes.
Okay.
And the lick marks on the Mulder card are getting a bit much now.
Listen, we can replace those. I was practically Mrs. David Duchovny last July. Practically. He even read my
I am
T-shirt.
here again. I am here.
I know, but look, he even read my T-shirt. It was. I think
so what
he was
you're
very
saying
close.
is he stared at your boobs?
Well, no, because the print was down below my boobs as well.
So he started staring at your boobs and styled it out by reading your T-shirt.
Maybe. That's fine. I wasn't offended.
Misogynist.
Something like that.
Anyway,
I'm all confused.
We're off again.
Anyway, I think this game is incredibly faithful to the IP. And, you know, we're joking about here, but I am a huge fan of X-Files, and I have been for more years than I will say on this particular podcast, because as we all know, I'm still 23. But, you know, I started watching X-Files when it first aired. I watched it religiously. I had it all on, you know, I taped it when you used to tape from telly onto videotapes and had all those homemade tapes in my cupboard. Honestly, I knew so much about the X-Files, and this really is very faithful to the IP, which is incredibly pleasing.
It is.
It's a joy to play something that obviously the designers have taken care with, something that is so beloved by so many people.
And also another thing that sort of lends itself to fans of the TV show are that you have the cards are broken up into seasons. So if you play seasons 1 to 3, you get the villains or the baddies or the creatures coming out in season order. So you might get Eugene Toombs, is it? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're impressed that I knew Toombs' name. I always remember that one because he was a weirdo.
He was really scary. He was in a 2-parter as well.
So you got Toombs in season 1, and then you've got as you said, the Big Blue in season 3, which was one of the big baddies in season 3. So it's all in season order, and you can play all through the whole 9. Well, you can the 9 seasons if you want, with cliffhangers.
And as a fan of the show, there's that little thrill when you turn a card over. You're like, oh, I remember that episode, or oh, that's my favourite episode, or I really like that baddie. I'm sorry, but I do. There's a couple of them. The Satanist teacher, for one, was great. And
did they work? So you obviously are sort of bigger fan than I was. I mean, I watched sort of the first 3 or 4 seasons. I enjoyed it, but you're a super fan, really. Would you say that the cards play out thematically individually? Did Toombs feel like Toombs? Did the Big Blue feel like the Big Blue?
I don't know whether it felt like it per se, but what they did with the text on the card is very much played into the characters. So in the first season or beginning of the second season, there is a character who was played by Giovanni Ribisi, and he could channel lightning. And so what the text on that particular card is very thematic of that. So he's got like a triple strike, but because he channels lightning, he doesn't just hit you on your turn, he hits everybody around the table on your turn, because he's channeling lightning, you know. And that to me is what makes it thematic. Oh, that power for that monster makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, the guy from Kitsunogari, and I forget his name, he was a pusher, so he could make people do what he wanted them to do and see what he wanted them to see. And therefore, you can't attack him until he comes out of the shadows and into the field. So he's going to get a strike in first, because that plays very much into what he was the big bad at.
Right. So we have been very much positive.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it to you. And I know the answer I'm going to get because we discussed it last night. After playing it, just to get our head round the game just one more time. There are things that work thematically brilliantly, but in terms of the game mechanisms, I feel that they don't really work at all. Now, I'm talking specifically about leads and evidence. So let me explain to the people what leads and evidence do. So you have 3 bits of evidence: priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3 evidence. And what you want to do is you want to turn over that evidence so you can read it, and then you want to almost sort of defeat that evidence and take it away so that the big bad can't use it against you. So the more evidence you uncover and take away from the investigation, the less powerful the big bad is going to be at the end of the game. And the way you're going to do that is by intercepting leads in the shadows and doing whatever the text says on the cards there. So you have to achieve something, and you have to achieve it twice before the leads go into the field and disappear. We have found that to be so haphazard and completely reliant on luck. So yes, maybe we're not the greatest at playing the game, but we have tried to reveal things as far back in the shadows as possible, where possible, because you're going to need 4 scratches, as Natalie calls them, the attack slashes, to reveal something that's just come into the shadow, and it's going to be 2 slashes for something that's about to go into the field, yeah? It's not always possible to get those 4 slashes, so you can't always reveal the thing right at the back of the queue. So therefore, at least for the first season or 2, the lead that you reveal tends to be towards the end of, and you don't have a lot of time to react to it. And then even if you do some 4s, and right at the beginning of the shadows, you might miss the lead and on that turn, because obviously you're not going to always be able to do it.
And some leads you can't even get. So one of the games we played, the third lead to come out as we were coming up to the end game, specified that it needed a monster on the left-hand side of it. We were to defeat a monster on the left-hand side of it before the monster came down through to the field. And that was not possible. Before we had revealed that lead, we'd already dispensed with all the monsters, and no other monsters were coming out because we were now at the end game. So it was impossible for us to get the evidence from that lead.
And they're very specific. So the one that we had recently that we probably could have done if it had come out any other time in the game was that we just had to have the field empty of all monsters and not be attacked at the end of your turn. And that whole game we'd managed the field brilliantly. I had maybe 1 wound, Natalie had none, and we had managed the field really well. We'd managed to just pull together enough strikes just to take things out in the shadows or take them out as they arrived in the field, and we pretty much had the whole game an empty field until this card came out when we had 2. And they were really high strike values, and we were really struggling to get rid of them. And all we had to do is not be hit by a strike, but it was impossible because we had 2 in the field that we couldn't get rid of.
And in the same game, we had the lead where,
and that was the one we got rid of early. We found him early. We found him second in.
But we had to. There was one where if we'd have recruited 2 agents in 1 turn, we'd have got the evidence. And when it because of, as Sean had mentioned, the way we were having to flip the cards and scan the cards, this came at the very end. So, we had no chance of getting it if we didn't have the currency in our hands right then to do it. Yeah. Now, the turn before, I was chock full of currency to do it. I could have bought the whole tableau and just done it. But
and it came a turn left.
And you can't plan for them.
There's a deck of, I think it's 12 or 15 leads that get mixed in. You don't know what they are, so
you only get 3 of them.
You only get 3 per game, and you can't plan for them, because one might be you need loads of slashes to do, one might be you need loads of this, one will be completely situational. When it comes out, it's going to affect things, and you just can't plan for it. So it is dumb luck, and then it just makes the end game scenario way harder for no fault of your own.
So we've played a few games of it, and last night was the first time we'd won. But we won more through luck than judgment.
Well, no, it was a bit of clever play. Let's not run ourselves down that much.
No, but the end game, that particular end game, I think is probably one of the weakest. It was a disinformation one where literally the thing had 4 hit points, which is very low.
Yeah, very low hit points.
And given that a strike can be 4 or 5, we just needed one decent strike.
And one of the pieces of evidence was that it takes evidence from the...
And it takes strikes from the discard pile.
Takes strikes from the discard pile, which tends to be things that don't hit you. So it tends to be the zeros that don't go on you and stuff like the misses. So you're going to get... We had 2 misses on top of the pile, so every time we hit this thing, and we had to amass 8 hits to get to it, it was getting 0 hit points. But we also had a card that we could look at the top 2 strikes, and one of them just happened to be a 4, and Natalie just happened to have enough strikes with a coordinate from me to be able to get the 8, and the 4 destroyed him, and we won the game literally a second before I was about to die. So, very lucky, a little bit of clever play, but again, the evidence completely would have destroyed us, but for that dumb luck. That's where the game kind of lets itself down a little bit.
Yeah, it does. I would have a question, and it would be interesting for Ronan to play, I think, because Ronan has played a lot more Legendary Encounter games.
I think so, yes.
And I think it would be interesting to see if an experienced player has the same thoughts about it than we do. Is it just simply our lack of expertise?
Now you're stealing my ideas.
I am, but I'm going to build off it because I have another point to make.
Okay, go on.
So, if it is because of a lack of expertise in playing the game, I think that's a bit of a flaw. I don't think you should need undue expertise to play a game to win it. However, having said that, I think the way that they have stayed so faithful to the IP, and not just around the seasons, but even looking at the agent cards, you know, Walter Skinner plays in a very Walter Skinner way with the things that his text can do. Mm-hmm. You know, that they are all very, very thematic in that way. They all make sense with the, you know, with the characters. The Lone Gunman deck is a joy to behold, to be honest with you. And I would say, if you ever play Legendary Encounters, you make sure that one of the characters you have in the bureau is the Lone Gunman.
Slight caveat with that, sometimes the decks don't match some of the things that you need to interact with them.
Yeah, but that was because of us. Like, they did give you a suggested...
Yeah, so if you mix and match, like the Lone Gunman, some of the powerful cards need a certain type of card to come out, and in seasons 1 to 3, they were few and far between, and you don't always play with all the cards. Mm. So again, that's brilliant for longevity, but sometimes the cards that you need to interact with things aren't going to come out, and you don't necessarily know that. But that's a small point.
It is, but also I think they've addressed that in a certain way. The game that we played yesterday, an informant came out which needed the Lone Gunman, and we didn't have that in our setup. But part of the text of that informant was, if the Lone Gunman aren't part of your startup, you can recruit them outside the game for as long as the informant stays in play. Mm. Which was excellent, because what it meant is even after the informant went, we still had Lone Gunman cards in our deck from outside of the game, and there are some really good cards in that deck,
sure.
Where you can switch between scratches and stars.
Scratches.
What?
Scratches.
Scratchy scratches.
Scratchy scratches.
Scratchy
yes.
scratches.
So I don't think there's much more to say about this. For me, to sum up, it's a very thematic game that I do enjoy playing. I do wish that the evidence had been done better or just scrapped completely. But I do think things like the shadows and having as I said, the bureau coming face down makes it really feel like an X-Files game. I like the legendary encounter system anyway, so this very much is the one for our family because we are X-Files fans. I like Aliens, and it probably is the most competent of the series, but I can leave or take Aliens. It's fine. I enjoyed the film, but not massively. I don't feel the need to sort of rewatch them or stuff like that. But X-Files, definite classic, and I enjoy it for that.
I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. Probably a bit more than you.
Probably.
Because, as I've said, I love the X-Files, and I've played one other X-File game which was absolutely awful. That was
the IDW game, wasn't it?
That was awful. It wasn't great. But this is just, this just makes me happy to play. Yeah, it's got a few flaws, but I'm willing to overlook those. And you never know. If it's an expertise thing, believe me, we're going to be playing this game more often. Shawnee ain't getting away from this game anytime soon. And if it's not an expertise thing, and it is a flaw in the game, some bright spark on Board Game Geek is going to come up with a house rule and make it better. So.
Lovely. Okay, so last up is Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. Now, this was a print and play from 2016, but Ludi Creations have re-released it, a nicer version with 2-player rules thrown in, because it was originally just a 1-player game. Designed by Todd Sanders. So the story goes, each year Mr. Vernon Cabbagehead seeks to be left alone in his garden to grow vegetables and to try to win the annual garden club competition. However, his meddling neighbours won't stop interfering and pilfering from Mr. Cabbagehead's garden. We have played the 2-player game pretty much only. I haven't played the solo variant yet, or the original game. So this is all based on the 2-player game, but it's very, very similar in what you do. The aim of the game is to create a 6x3 grid of vegetables and place them in a way to score as many points as possible. So on the table, you have your player tableau of the vegetable cards. You also have a bee card. Players are going to start with 2 bees, more on them later, and also a choice of 3 face-up vegetable cards. And there's also a random selection of those naughty neighbours. So on a turn, you're going to choose one of the vegetables to take. Now, the first one in the row, you're going to have to pay a bee for. The second one, you can just take for free. And the third one, you get to take a bee from the beehive card. You then choose one to discard and check for the neighbour-related number on the one remaining card. You're going to take that many tokens from the neighbour bag or neighbour stack and place them on the matching neighbour card. You keep going to the end of the round, and there's 3 rounds, and at the end of each round you're going to check which neighbour has more tokens, and that one is going to do something mean, usually take a vegetable from the players. After those 3 rounds, you're going to go into final scoring. You're going to score for set patterns or for adjacent vegetables of the same type. Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. The look of this one, and just the look of this one, Natalie, won my heart.
It's glorious, isn't it?
It is so quirky.
It's lovely. It's like a little stroll down a Victorian country village.
Yeah, very retro.
Allotments, very retro. Allotments here, there, and everywhere. You can imagine the smoking jacket on the cabbages. You'll understand if you ever see the game.
When we previewed this one, I think myself and Ronan, and I think maybe Dan was there too, we agreed that this was a charming look.
Oh, look.
Very charming.
Yes.
It charmed us from afar.
It is. It's a charming game.
But did that charm offensive from afar become just offensive when we played the game? You see what I did there?
I was about to congratulate you before you went into self-congratulatory mode.
Did you see what I did there?
I did.
Tell you what.
You're on fire.
Beef.
Oh, good
podcasting.
Lord.
I'm the man. Anyway, I made a lovely chicken the other day as well. Anyway.
Any cottage pie tonight?
I did do my cottage pie, which was another triumph.
It was another triumph in the Cottage Rice household.
It was another triumph.
To be fair, it's the only cottage pie I can eat. I'm not a cottage pie fan, but yours I'll eat.
We've got to stop talking about food.
Are you hungry?
I'm getting hungry.
I tell you, I could murder a KFC chicken bucket.
What time is it? Too late.
Is it too late? Right, let's crack on. Yes.
Okay, so
Mr. Cabbagehead's garden. We're always looking for, unusual two-player games, or just a decent two-player game. To be honest, that's all we pretty much get to play. And this is a nice little surprise. It's a card game. It's set collection. It's there can be a little bit of nastiness there, but it's all in jolly good fun. You can't get too bent out of shape if you're handing over a carrot instead of a salsify.
It's pretty much forced. It'd be really, really silly for you once you've taken the vegetable that you want to not then throw away a vegetable somebody else wants.
Right.
Because it'd be just silly because there's no point to it. Yeah, there might be a bit of stick given to the person. Oh, you creature, but. Generally, you're expecting it to happen. You know which one the person's going to throw away. But what I like about it, Natalie, is it has simple but effective choices that have implications in many different ways.
I agree. And what feeds into that for me is that there are scoring opportunities, but they're fairly well balanced. For instance, you can either do what I like to do, because it just tickles my soul, and go for the variance in your garden. And so you have lots of different vegetables. You're not really getting a lot of set collection together, but you get 30 points. But you can't really score off any of the other combinations, but it does give you 30 points straight up. But if you go down the other road and do a lot of other different combinations, you score less, but there's more chances to score. So the last time we played, that's exactly what happened. I did my big plot variance and you went elsewise, and I think in the end there was only 2 or 3 points in it.
Yeah.
Which for me demonstrates that the scoring mechanism has been thought about, and it's not just not uneven. You don't have to go one way to win. You can take your choice. I think.
There's a few things, and they're small little things, but they all sort of group together to form a really positive experience. The bees, we talked about the bees, so you have to pay a bee for one card, take a bee for another card.
And if you haven't got the bees available, or if you can't take a bee, you can't have the card.
That's exactly my point. So you can start to manipulate the bees. So you choose the order in where the veg that remains on the table goes. You choose what order it is in 1, 2 or 3 spot. So you can start, so if you know the person is going to want that card and they haven't got any bees, then you put it on to the 3 spot. If there's no bees on the beehive where the person would have to take a bee to take the card, you put it in the 3 spot. Then all of a sudden you're manipulating those bees to effectively deny people cards so that you don't have to throw away. So it's something more to think about. You have numbers on the cards, Natalie, and the way that the neighbours work is they generally come and say, right, they're going to take the banana or the pumpkin of the lowest number, or the carrot or the cabbage with the highest number. And so you know in advance what's likely to come, and you can start planning because you can see maybe the radishes. The radish dude has got 4 and everyone else has got 2.
What's the one that's hateful? Is it the carrot one?
They're all hateful.
No, there's one that was particularly hateful, and it absolutely stuffed both of our gardens.
Because we didn't plan very well for it.
No, he's just hateful.
Well, let me finish my point before you start abusing the neighbours in real life and in the game. I was just
about to say, them that side are all right.
So yeah, you can think about, right, okay, if he's going to take the lowest number, I'm going to make sure that I don't put the lowest number, or at least have a sequence of number in order, so that the highest number's on one end, the lowest number's on the other end, so they're not taking something right in the middle of a run. Because if I've got 5 carrots, I'm going to score bonus points for it. I'm also going to score, because I've got 5 adjacent carrots, I'm going to score points for each of those, because you only score for adjacency. Or if that neighbour takes a card from within that group and he's going to split them up, all of a sudden I'm losing loads of points. Where if he takes from the end, I'm not losing much at all. So, and I've got the opportunity to carry on building that group of carrots rather than having to repair it. So again, it's a very subtle thing. It's a very easy thing, but it makes you think about where you're placing and what cards you're collecting.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think that subtlety, those nuances, and also the different paths you can go down, whilst there's not a tremendous amount of them, combined together, I think it means that, we'll give this game a fair few number of plays. I don't think it's going to grow old for us particularly quickly, which is not to say we're not going to play 5 in a row one night. But it will be in a continual rotation of those games that we like to pull out when we want to play a game, but we don't want to be spending 3 hours on something.
Yeah, and it's a portable game.
Yeah, we took it to Oxford for my birthday,
we went to Oxford for Natalie's birthday, and we stayed in a hotel that was very prominent in Inspector Morse. In the John Thor days of Inspector Morse.
We sat in the bar with the open fire and played the game.
And it felt very Victorian. And we played open. I'll tell you what, rarely been so at ease with my surroundings. Playing this sort of Victorian game in these Victorian sort of surroundings with the open fire. Old John Thor looking over us, saying, with a twinkle in his eye, God bless him.
God bless him.
And... yeah, it just felt right, and the game just feels right. It just feels like you've got choices to make. You're not overburdened by those choices, and the whole feel of the game. And I go back to the word charming.
Absolutely.
And another thing to bear in mind, Natalie, is that what Ludi Creations have done as part of their Kickstarter, they've added lots of different neighbours. So they've added more neighbours into the fold. So you've got loads to choose from. You're not going to have the same 5 neighbours time and time again, which wouldn't be too bad because you get familiar with those neighbours. So you can have those same 5, get really familiar with them, know exactly what they're going to do if they come to bite you on the bum, and be able to almost fend them off and plan your garden. Or you've just got those new ones that are going to do different things, more exciting things. And on top of that, they've got a couple of additional expansions in there. So that we haven't touched at all yet. So, exciting. Yeah, Mr. Cabbagehead, he's got a romance going on.
Fair place to him. He's a good-looking cabbage.
Eugenia, I can't remember her name.
No.
Whatever. And there's a cricket expansion. I'm sure the crickets come and do nasty things to your gardens. So, yeah. I think what you get in that tiny little box, again, it's one of my regular sayings, it exceeds the sum of its parts.
I'm going to agree. I also want to jump in here and, when Sean first brought this game out, I did my internal rolling of eyes like, oh my God, what has he got now? Which sometimes I do when you pull out these little punts that you have.
It's not nice, is it?
But this one...
it's not polite.
I'm not a polite person. I think we've got 2 games on this particular episode of the podcast, Jungle Race and Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden, which have been punts or what have you, that internally I may have thought, oh, sweet Lord above. But actually, they're both are really good games.
Mr. Cabbagehead wasn't a punt.
Oh, was it not?
Because it was a print and play, I was able to see reviews and see what people thought of it, and it was highly regarded, hence Ludi Creations picking it up and printing it. I already loved the art, and I would say, of all of my big spanking Kickstarters with all like minis and all that, I would say this rated very, very, very close to the top in the one that I was most excited about.
Mythic Battles best be at the top.
Mythic Battles may be at the top, my 17 boxes of it.
Where are we going to put it?
Well, I was kind of hoping that you'd go and live in the garage.
No, you go and live in the garage.
And I can cuddle up to Mythic Battles at night.
So we'll put Mythic Battles in the garage and you can cuddle up to it in the garage.
Well, I'll have to, because wherever it goes, I go.
Fair play. Listeners, this is a little competition for you. Send in your entries, and not only can you have a brand spanking new copy of Mythic Battles and the 17 boxes it comes in, but you also get one Shawnee Boo. Can't go far wrong. Free to a good home.
You get your very own giant to go with it.
free to a good home. It's really useful for lifting things.
Lifting things and keeping foxes away. They can't stand the smell.
It's really good that you married someone who has no sense of smell.
Isn't it brilliant?
Absolutely.
Right.
That's why I can come down into the pit with a
We're doing it again. Right,
Sorry.
stop. Sum up on Mr. Cabbagehead's garden for us, please.
It is a very quaint, charming,
Charming. Stealing my words now.
I was harking back. I was referential. Can I finish? It's a very quaint, charming two-player game that has a lot to offer, and I enjoy getting it on the table and beating Shawnee. Playing.
Mr. Cabbagehead's garden, it was everything I hoped it would be. I thoroughly enjoy it. One that I'm going to drag with me on holidays, trips, everywhere. It can be played in a pub, and it will be played many, many times this year for me. Charming is exactly it. I thoroughly enjoy my games of Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. And that is the end of our reviews. What we're going to be doing in the outro, we're going to be doing our top threes of the episode. We're going to be hearing from our son James, and he's going to be telling us his choice for the best game of the three we mentioned from his collection. And we'll be talking about an upcoming con that we're visiting and we're very excited to be going to. We'll see you in a few seconds. So, there we have it. We have reviewed our 6 games, and now we are going to embark on a voyage of more discovery.
Oh?
That was made it more exciting than it really has any right to be. We're going to do our top threes of the episode.
Yeah, that really was overselling it by
Natalie,
quite a margin.
What is your number 3 game of the episode?
Oh my word. I had my top 3 all picked out.
Yeah.
But it's completely changed.
It's completely changed, you loon.
Oh, it's completely changed. I can't even remember what my previous top 3 was. Number 3. Gotta be, absolutely, Fireball Island.
Okay. So, why Fireball Island number 3?
Because out of the 6 games we review today, it's the third most enjoyable.
You need a beating. Give us more than that.
It's lucky that it's on the podium at all, given that it's a dexterity game, at which I suck. I like the look of it. It's got marbles that you roll. It makes James laugh. So
my number 3 is also Fireball Island.
Ooh, why?
Because of the enjoyment that James gets from it.
There you go then.
And it is a switch your mind off, just have fun as a family, fleeting alliances, lots of laughing at people getting knocked over with the marbles, and just excitement, lots of excitement. So it would be higher, but the setup time is a pain in the bum, and it's always me that has to do it. So that's my number 3. What's your number 2, Natalie?
My number 2 is Legendary Encounters X-Files.
Oh, see, now I'm surprised. I thought that the evidence conundrum...
And I'll tell you for why. Because it's such a good example of how you do IP justice. It really is. And yeah, okay, it's got that flaw with the evidence and leads, but all I think about it when I play it is I just discount them because we've never successfully got evidence. So it's they're just extra cards in there. I'm not even going to be bothered by them.
Okay.
And I still have fun with the game. So that's my house rule.
Fair dues.
What's your
number 2 is My Little Scythe.
Oh,
because big fan of the main game. I think it is a really useful thing for James to get his head round. It will propel him into playing older games, and also it's not only a game that he is enjoying, but it's we're able to enjoy with him, and I find that very important because we will have enthusiasm to play that game after the sort of bog standard 4 or 5 times that you kind of give some of these games, and then you kind of say, oh, do you have to play that one? Or do we really have to? This one, I think we're going to be, yeah, we'll play that. Quite enjoy that. So that's why it's my number 2.
Okay.
And what's your number 1?
My number 1 is the very charming Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden.
And is it because it's charming?
It's because it's a really good small 2-player game. The artwork's very sweet and very lovely. There's some decisions to be made that actually affects the outcome of the game. You know, it can be slightly mean, which I quite like. It's just a very quaint, charming game that I enjoy playing.
My number one is Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden, so it's a clear winner of the episode.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it is just a really, really cool game to just bring with you, bring out anywhere. 2-player rules that Ludo Creations have brought into the fold work really well. And yeah, I was excited about it before, and it lived up to its expectations for once. And Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden is my number one and your number one.
The worthy winner.
But more importantly, we're now going to hear from the real voice of reason and knowledge, the font of all knowledge.
The font of all knowledge.
And yes, we shall hear from himself. So, we always talk about these family games, and we mention our son James a hell of a lot of times when we're talking about them, because he's the reason we play them. So we thought, why not get the man himself in to tell us his definitive answer about which ones of these games is the best. So, hello, James.
Hello, my name is James and I'm 6 years old.
Nicely done. It's like you've been doing this all your life. How many podcasts have you done? This year must be your 100th one or something.
No, it's my first.
It's your first one?
Yes, this is my first podcast.
Wow, you're going to put me out of work. So, apart from the 3 games we're talking about today, James, what's your favourite game you've been playing lately?
Dungeon Crawlers.
It's a dungeon crawler. It was called Wrath of a Shardalon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of Daddy's favourite. And how did you find it? What did you do in the game?
Well, us as a family, we lost the whole thing.
We did lose the whole thing. Who died the most?
It was probably Daddy.
Yeah, it was Daddy. Daddy died twice, didn't he?
Yeah.
So
and I died, so we lost the game.
So we had to fight off all the monsters and find the exit, didn't we?
Yeah, I was really good with my tornado strike.
You were, but you were a bit rubbish up to then, weren't you?
Yeah.
How many ones did you roll when we needed 20s, and how many 20s did you roll when we needed ones?
So I rolled 15 ones and 25 20s.
Yeah, well, it felt like that anyway. So every time the baddies were attacking, you rolled a 20, and every time you were attacking the baddies, you'd roll a 1, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So, yeah, James was the rogue, I was the dragonborn wizard,
yeah,
and Mummy was she wasn't the cleric, I think she was the paladin, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was the paladin.
She was supposed to be our fighter, but she wasn't very good either.
No.
In fact, we were all a bit rubbish, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
So we got to the last tile, but we got killed, didn't we?
We got killed by
the big baddie.
The baddie that
appears
when you exit the game.
Yeah, but why did you like the game so much, even though we lost?
Well, I did like the part when I got to fight.
You liked the fighting, did you?
Yeah, I did like the fighting.
You like beating the monsters?
Yeah.
Cool. And it was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it? Because we didn't know what was going to come next. Very good. Okay, so let's talk about the games that are in this episode.
Yeah.
So we have Fireball Island.
Yeah.
We have My Little Scythe.
Yeah.
And we have Jungle Race.
Yeah.
And they're games that you like a lot, all 3 of them, aren't they?
Yeah.
So let's talk about them one by one. Let's talk about Fireball Island.
Yeah.
What do you like about Fireball Island?
Well, it's first my favourite game.
Don't give away the gold. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
So, why do you like Fireball Island?
Because you get to drop ember balls, which are a bit like fireballs, into Vulkar's head.
Well, you get to flick the embers, don't you? And you drop the fireballs.
Yeah, and the real name of it is...
Go on. Fireball Island.
Fireball Island, The Curse of Vulkar.
That is correct. I always forget about that bit, but you always remind me. And what else do you like about it? You like playing the cards, you said to me earlier.
Yeah, I like playing the cards that make you flick the ember balls
so
and
you like drawing the
drop them.
cards that allow you to do
Yeah.
some damage.
Yep.
And you normally go after Daddy, don't you?
I normally go after Mummy or Daddy. Mostly Daddy.
And you like tipping the bees in as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I like tipping the bees in.
Very good. Okay, so that's Fireball Island, the Curse of Vulkar. I won't forget that. So, next up is My Little Scythe. Now, you're the one that actually wanted to play this more recently, didn't
Yes.
you? You kept dragging it off the shelf and saying, I want to play this. What's been making you want to play with My Little Scythe recently?
Well, I wanted to play it because I really like the wolf.
You like
the character.
the wolf faction, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. And what else do you
And I
like
like
about it?
the card where you can change move, upgrade it.
Oh, you like upgrading your move,
Yeah, and I could just hop around portals without
That's right.
anything costing.
You did. You had the upgrade that it didn't cost you a movement point to hop around the portals. And you did,
Yeah.
and you used that very well, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You moved all your apples around really quickly and
Yeah.
into Castle Everfree in the middle.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so that's My Little Scythe. And Jungle Race. What do you like about Jungle Race?
Well, I like... This is the first. This is my favourite character. It's the giraffe.
You like the giraffe. He looks a bit funny with the big long neck sticking out of the car, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But what do you like about the game?
I just like how you can push people back and just race. Like a real racing...
You like being mean to Mummy and Daddy and pushing our characters back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
Like.
Okay, so I think you've already given away the secret.
Yeah.
But if I was to say which one of those three is your absolute favourite, which one is it?
Fireball Island, Curse of Vulkar.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's favourite at the moment because it's a brand new game, isn't it? And it's very exciting.
And we have different levels. We have different stuff that come with the game.
Yeah,
we
expansions.
And my favourite expansion is the boat one.
You see, me and Mummy didn't like the boat very much. So
That's my
your
favourite.
favourite's the boat. What do you like about the boat?
It's just that you can get some gems. They cost 2 points. And if you put them in a trade, they give you 1 extra go.
No, you know what? And they're very handy, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very handy.
You used them quite well last time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming into the game pit to visit Daddy.
So, this is the end.
You're seeing us out. Go on then. Say goodbye to everybody. Say thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
There you have it. Oh, what can I say? We can't say anything.
Can't say fairer than that.
We can't say more than that. Natalie,
Yeah.
I'm starting to get excited.
Is it time for your annual bath, Shawnee?
Oh, no. We don't get excited about that. Trepidation. There's a lot of planning that goes into that.
I have to send out notices. Council gets involved.
The canal has to be swept. Or swept even. Swept even.
Do you really English?
I don't English very well.
Go on then. Joking aside.
We are off to probably my favourite convention in... not my favourite convention in March, because there's not that many conventions in March, but it's in March and it happens to be my favourite convention.
That's a bit of...
So, my favourite convention in the first week of March.
Damning with fake praise.
In the north of England. Aircon is on its way. It's from Friday the 8th of March to Sunday the 10th of March. We are all guns blazing. We've got our hotel booked. You haven't been before.
No, last time you went last year, I was so incredibly pregnant.
You were. You were a month away from giving birth.
I was about 428 months pregnant.
Makes me sound like a bad person. I've just left you unattended.
That's pretty much what happened.
In a hot car.
Yeah.
With the windows all up.
The windows up.
No, she was with her grandparents.
I was with my grandparents, and I was very epically pregnant, and I just couldn't have managed it at all.
So myself and Ronan went last year.
I was very jealous.
No real expectations. And what we found was a really chilled out, con where playing games was really at the forefront, and we always had space to play games. There were events on that weren't sort of shoved in your face. You could go to them or not go to them, whatever you want. Really, really good fun quiz night. The Polyhedron Collider podcast did an event where they had various podcasters up there. Ronan went up there and embarrassed us. And generally, we just sat and played games. There's a small area for vendors. Cool bring and buy, which I intend to bring a good rake of our games to try and claw back some space and money.
Yes, let's do that then.
And Natalie, I'm going to put it out there, I think it's going to be right up there with LobsterCon for you, because that is currently your favourite gaming con.
It is. I think from what you've said, it absolutely is, because I like the more gaming-centric conventions. I'm not too bothered by the vendors. It's nice to see everything, but I just like getting with people and playing games, because I don't get to do that a lot.
And Aircon is in Harrogate, and it's in Harrogate Convention Centre, which is a really, really bright space to play games. Lots of nooks and crannies to just go and play. You can go and play out in the sunshine if there is any, or just in the big hall, which is really well lit. Really close to all the amenities that you could want. They have like pizza vans and burger vans just outside of the convention centre in the car park area. You're also Harrogate's such a small town, a beautiful town by the way, that everything's walking distance. You can go one end of Harrogate to the other end in like half an hour, and it's just the perfect spot for me for a con. And I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. So
if you're going, you should come and try and find us somehow.
Come and find us. Myself and Ronan aren't very small people. We'll be around there somewhere. We might be wearing our Game Pit t-shirts. We might not be. But
I will be.
Natalie will be wearing her Game Pit top. So there you go.
Just look for a small...
Also on the guest list...
spherical woman.
We have Dan Hughes from Sporadically Bored. We have Matthew Jude, our new bestie.
He's our new mate, isn't
our new bestie.
He comes round and plays our games.
He does, bless him. And Rodney Smith from Watch It Played.
I like him.
Yeah, we definitely like him. Great use of a lot of his videos.
Absolutely.
We have, I believe, the boys from the Polyhedron Collider are going, which I thoroughly enjoy their podcast.
And we're going.
We're going. And, Natalie.
Yes.
One you're most excited about.
Oh, God. Great
British Bake Off. Finalist.
Oh.
Kim Joy.
I'm so excited.
Apparently Kim Joy's going.
Kim Joy's going. She's a board gamer. I may only lick her a little bit.
Don't lick her.
Oh, okay.
We can't afford another court case.
Listen, David Duchovny was very sweet. He agreed to not take it any further. I've just got the one restraining order. I really wish you would stop bringing it up.
One restraining order with him. What about the one on John Bon Jovi, Gillian Anderson?
Listen, the tickets
Stephen King.
Yeah, well, I can't help it. I have a lot of love to give.
Indeed. And yeah, so lots of people going to Aircon. So once again, if you fancy it, it's in the early March, the 8th to the 10th of March to be exact, in Harrogate, Yorkshire. So yeah, if you enjoy gaming, give it a go. It's a fantastic area, and I believe they have the largest open gaming area in the UK. In Europe, maybe. I believe maybe even Europe.
I'm so excited.
So, brilliant. So, yeah. So, really looking forward to that. And that brings us to the end of this episode, Natalie.
Does that mean I have to say goodbye to the smelly pit?
Well, not quite as smelly now that Ronan's out, but thank you very much, Natalie. It's been a delight.
I am a delight.
As you keep telling us, you are a delight. And, yes, thank you very much for coming in and doing our pitter-patting.
Oh, it's not... Stop trying to make it happen.
It's going to happen. Pitter-patter.
Oh, good Lord.
Brilliant. It's genius.
Is it genius?
It's genius. Not as good as my roast beef, but it's close.
They even heard me roll my eyeballs right then. Thank you very much for having me on, Sean. It is a joy, as always, and
And
I love being around.
as always, we are very proud members of the Dice Tower Network. Go there and to the Dice Tower itself for gaming goodness galore. We have a YouTube channel as well as this podcast, and that features a whole range of pit stop videos, which are short overviews on many, many different games. We also have convention coverage on our YouTube channel. If you wish to download the episodes, we're on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and of course Podbean. We are on social media. We have our Facebook account. We are on Instagram and Twitter at GamePit Podcast. If you wish to contact us, our email is thegamepitpodcast@gmail.com. But the best place to come and chat with us is on our Board Game Geek Guild. Pop along there and we'll be happy to chew the breeze with you. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you next time with our 10 by 10 for this year and a review of last year's 10 by 10, which didn't go very well.
Oh, sorry.
Music by you. Boy,
Girl,
boy,
girl.
boy.